Mr. Chairman, first of all, I am a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and have been for 18 years now, but let me also note that I'm a senior member of the Science Committee and served as chairman of the Space Subcommittee of Science for 8 years. So I know about this issue. I followed it. I take it very seriously. And so let's be frank. Let's not beat around the bush about what we're really talking about here. If you don't want export control reform to focus on China, if you do want to focus on China, that's fine. But if you don't want us to focus on China and you want to focus on how we can reform export controls generally, well, then you take China right off the table, right off the bat. So any reform that's going to be really effective, and I think is going to, and that we have a chance of succeeding, has got to be a two-tiered approach. It's as simple as that. And that has been something that the industry has been unwilling to accept and to take seriously. Because what's happening in China and the threat that China poses is something that we cannot ignore. Yet that should not be the controlling factor of how we regulate high-tech and especially our policies dealing with satellites in our dealings with all the other countries of the world. Last week, the heads of the world's largest satellite operators said that they want to launch their satellites on Chinese rockets. They want to do that because it's cheaper. In fact, every time these satellite operators are given the chance to discuss the ITAR reforms, they always tell us that they want permission to launch on the Long March rocket. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to deduce that the leading edge of reform efforts in terms of ITAR then is actually an effort to permit satellites to be launched on Chinese military rockets. Is that what the debate is really all about? Because you can count on me to be working with all of you and to try to make sure that we decrease the regulations on America's ability and other people's ability to sell our technology to other countries. But let's be serious and talk about China. It is somewhat offensive for me to hear the SES, whose holding companies, I might add, is in Luxembourg, or Telsat, which is a Canadian company, or Eutelsat, which is French, of course, and then Intelsat, which of course pays its taxes in Bermuda. It's kind of disturbing to hear all of this people lecture us about how we're trying to save jobs in the United States by letting foreign companies take advantage of cut-rate military launches. First of all, these people aren't concerned about jobs in the United States. But what about the jobs in the United States? Don't they count? What about the people who work in our industry, our launch industry? They should be part of the equation when we're talking about this. Now, as a Republican and a believer in free markets, I do not begrudge satellite operators who are making millions of dollars of profit. I don't begrudge them that profit. But the fact is that we should not be compromising the security, long-term security interests of our country for that short-term profit, and that's why we have to focus on China. Benjamin Franklin was quoted as saying, "Sir, please don't burn down my barn to cook your eggs." Well, we have Eutelsat basically asking us to endanger our national security in order to fatten profits. And Eutelsat, as I say, is making a profit. So let's take a look at what policies we should have about China, and let us not forget that the reason why there are the restrictions on China that we've got is because China remains a vicious dictatorship. It is the same Chinese regime today that did what? That massacred the reform movement in China at Tiananmen Square, and that's why these restrictions were put on in the first place. So I would suggest that those who are very serious about trying to make sure that we pay attention to the cumbersome restrictions that ITAR puts on high-tech companies, I suggest let's talk about setting up a two-tier system where they are freed from those restrictions and have a realistic policy towards China. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.